Talking today to Frank Poulos, who is the chairman of Magnis Energy Technologies. Now, Frank, we normally talk about the battery chain, and we talk to different producers within that chain. Magnis Energy Technologies is somewhat different in that you own that battery chain from graphite mining through to battery technology, all the way through to battery recycling. Can you introduce us to the business?
Yeah, so as you've mentioned, we're in the supply chain sort of from end to end when it comes to lithium-ion batteries, where we have in the first instance our project in Tanzania, which is a graphite project, which is able to produce a battery-grade anode material without any purification. So very green, high-quality product, down to being involved in battery plants. So we have a plant in New York, which has recently started production just at small scale, which is scaling up to a semi-autonomous phase by the end of the year, on towards a fully autonomous phase. We then also have a project in Townsville, which is at a feasibility stage, and we are looking at full-scale production and ways of fast-tracking that production to having some kind of production by the end of next year for that plant.
And for that plant, you're talking about, well, both those plants you mentioned is both energy storage and for EV batteries, as in the electrification of transport. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct here. So with both projects, at the moment, the majority of our offtakes are are on the energy storage side of things. But we also do have a couple of groups in the transportation space. So we're making these cells. They could be used in any product pretty much that that requires lithium-ion batteries.
And can you talk to us a little bit more about the board, particularly some of the senior figures you have involved offshore?
We have a really impressive board, Tim, and that's headed by Professor Stanley Whittingham. As most will probably know, he was recently awarded with the Nobel Prize for the invention of the lithium-ion battery. So he was the actual original inventor of the lithium-ion battery. He's based in the US, in upper state New York, very close to where our lithium-ion battery plant is located. And we also, adding to that, we have Mona Dejani. Mona is an advisor to the current Biden administration on renewable energy. Mona is quite well known in the space when it comes to renewable energy. We also have Professor Richard Petty. Professor Petty was also a recent and previous board member of the B20, so top 20 business leaders in the world. So some really impressive individuals, and then going down to Zarmeen, who's a ESG and impact investing specialist, comes from the funds management industry, on to Mugunthan Siva. He's also quite well known in the funds management industry locally. So some real impressive individuals who can help us in getting our projects moving forward from a funding side of things, also from a technical side of things. And you wouldn't have the caliber of these individuals, I believe, involved in a company like Magnis if it wasn't for the credibility of the projects that we have going forward.
Now, Frank, you mentioned the Biden administration. The Biden administration seems to be a lot more commercial when it comes to green energy, particularly with battery production. Is that a future source of funding for a company like Magnis?
Most are aware the Biden administration has recently announced an infrastructure package, of which there's roughly about 20 billion set aside for cell manufacturers, of which we're in discussions at the moment with the DOE in the US for some of that funding. Now, that funding is available for groups who are in production or literally about to be in production. So we qualify in that. And as you know, there aren't that many producers of lithium-ion batteries in the US. So we're obviously confident that we will receive some funding. Our plan is to grow to 10 gigawatt hours very quickly. And we believe that plan that we've put forward to the government is something that will, be of interest to both them and help us grow exponentially, because that's the aim from our side. And we want to be producing these made in the USA lithium ion batteries, which, as we've mentioned previously, don't have any Chinese input in our supply chain. So it's a real point of difference in the product that we have, and we believe that will help us going forward.
Now, Frank, we've recently made a couple of ASX announcements. Sometimes they can be of a technical nature. Can you give us some more colour on what they mean, particularly for investors to understand?
Yes, a couple of our announcements we've had recently, one yesterday and one a couple of weeks back, around the technology that we have. So our cathode technology is a lithium manganese phosphate technology, but there's a biomineralization technology that goes with it, which allows us to have a higher voltage versus the major technologies out there, which are LFP and NMC, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. So our technology has no cobalt or no nickel, yet is a high performing technology. Now, that technology, apart from having a high voltage, also leads to a long life, it's safe, and the other point is fast charging, which goes to our previous announcement that we've recently made, where we were able to show that after 2,500 cycles, our battery going strong at a 30-minute charge and discharge in charging. So the relevance there is, if I compare it to a Tesla vehicle that most would be familiar with today, if you get one of those long life or Tesla vehicles that could sort of do about 550 to 600 Ks per charge, using a Tesla destination charger, it roughly takes 12 hours to charge it from a point that the battery has no charge, is empty, to a full charge. Then they also have these fast chargers, which roughly take about 45 minutes. So we're comparing the sort of fast charge capabilities. Now, if you were to fast charge that battery, you pretty much would get about 1,000 charges from that. We're at that 2,500 charge rate. 2,500 charge rate, yeah, and we're going strong. Now, we're sort of taking that to the next level in the next instance, where we're still going along to see how many charges we can get at, but we're also taking now the charge time down to 10 minutes and then down to 6 minutes. So they will be game changers in the transportation industry, especially if we think of trucks, semi-trailers who are on the road all the time, buses, taxis, groups who actually need to be, or who are doing hundreds of kilometers per day. They're unable to rely on 1,000 cycles, because in that case, the batteries may last for 3 years if you're lucky. They need thousands of cycles, and they need that fast charging. So that's where the relevance of that announcement comes into it. We're also involved in a couple of programs, and one being that some of your listeners may be familiar with. There's a fast charging program that has been funded by the New York State government, which is an extra fast charging program for the New York State buses. So we're talking transit buses. We're working with the largest energy provider in New York, which is Con Edison, and BAE Systems, which is one of the largest producers of electric buses. We're providing those batteries. We should have some data coming out in the next few months, but these are real game changers for the transportation industry. So apart from just producing the cells, we also have some really exciting technology that we're working on that could be game changing for the sector as well.